Hey, I'm Evan, Head of Engineering for RM Stator. Today we're going to show you how to install our brand new Yamaha Warrior 350 DC ignition conversion and electrical kit. So this is a pretty comprehensive electrical kit for the Yamaha Warriors. They made these things from '87 till the mid-2000s, I believe. Most of the older models, I think from 2001 and earlier, were an AC ignition system, so they were powered off the stator. And they weren't particularly unreliable, but as they're getting older, a lot of the electrical components are starting to fail in these. So this kit basically replaces the entire electrical system, the ignition and charging system on these quads, and brings them up to the modern standards, to the 2002 and newer models. So it's a really nice kit, solves all the problems on these bikes. You can just buy one part number and have everything you need to get your quad up to date. I'm going to show you all the parts that go with it. So of course we have a new stator. This is the later model DC stator, or DC ignition system stator, so it's higher output compared to the older models. We of course have a new stator gasket for the side cover. We have a complete new wiring harness. This replaces all the wiring on the bike, which is really nice. You don't have to worry about old corroded connections any longer. We have a new voltage regulator rectifier to complete the charging system. And we have a new ignition coil. We have a new key switch. We have a new starter solenoid. The neutral relay, which often fails on these. Have a brand new handlebar switch, and our high performance CDI box, which is for the later DC ignition models. So overall, this is a really nice kit. It will completely solve the electrical problems on your older Warrior. The bike we're using today is a 1987 Warrior 350. The bike's pretty much original. I think it'll be a good candidate to take apart and show you how to do this. So to get started with this kit, you're going to need to strip off pretty much all the exterior stuff. Go ahead and get your seat removed, your gas tank, the front panel up here, your front and rear plastics. You need to get all that stuff stripped off so you have access to the frame and the wiring harness. So now that all the bodywork, plastic, seat, and everything's removed, we're going to start by removing the wiring harness to lay over the new one. So this is not too difficult. You really just need to trace the wiring harness down the body of the bike and unplug all of the connectors. So I already have most of these unplugged here at the rear, and I'm just going to start disconnecting components, set them out of the way. Have your voltage regulator back here. So as you go through and do that, over here's the stator side, get all of these unplugged and out of the way so you can start isolating the wiring harness on its own. You might have to cut some ties on the frame where it was attached. I still have one back here. And then you can get all the back done. Most of the rear connectors are all in this location here on the side of the bike. And then make your way up to the front, and pretty much all the connectors up at the front are in two bundles underneath where the front cover was. So unplug all of those, and then you can lift the harness up and out of the way. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the harness now, and I'll show you what that looks like. And here's the old harness off the bike. Here's the rear end of it, the connections we were showing you earlier. And here's the front. So there's quite a bit of plugs up here. These are just under the where the steering column connects to the frame. And one of them is pretty much all the CDI box connections, which is this guy over here. And then each side also has the headlight connection, and you have your handlebar switch and all this other stuff. So anyways, you just go through and unplug them all. You need to route them around the little brackets that hold them in place up there. But other than that, once they're loose, you can pull them back out of the frame and remove the whole harness, as we've done here. And here is our brand new harness. So I'm not going to go through all the connections, but everything here will plug into the new components we're going to add. So I'm going to go ahead and lay the new harness over the bike. Just make sure you look at it and put the headlight connectors, basically the front end connectors up front, and the CDI connector and everything is up there. And lay it over the bike following the same routing as the original. So I'm going to do that, and then we'll kind of pan over it and show you how it's installed, and then we can start swapping out the individual components. Okay, so we have our new harness laid over the bike. It's routed the exact same way as the original, and I'm going to show you where the connections are at. At the back here, we have our new CDI box and voltage regulator, relay and starter solenoid, and tail light. They're all in this bundle here. And then we're going to pan over and show you where the rest of the connections are. In the center here, about at the back of the motor, you should have your stator connections. That's these guys for your charging and ignition side of the stator. And we have the neutral switch connections here as well in this bundle. So then, if you jump over to the right side of the bike, there's a clip here for the harness to sit in. And it routes up along the right side of the frame now. There's another clip here towards the front. And then it just kind of crosses over and comes out through the frame here at the very front. So up here's the rest of the connections in one bundle. You have your key switch and your handlebar switch, your coil connection, headlight, all that is up in the bundle up front. So that's pretty much it for laying over the new harness. Now we're going to go through and start swapping the individual components and show you how to connect them. So we're going to show how to change the stator here. To start, you need to remove the recoil pull starter on the left side. There's 4 8mm bolts mounted around it. So we've already removed those. I'm going to pull the last one out. And the cover can just slide off. Okay, so once that's done, you have your cup here for the pull starter. You have a single bolt in the middle, and you need to lock this guy up. We're going to use a tire iron in between two of these guys to lock it up, and then we'll hit it with an impact gun and pull this nut off. Okay, so we loosened the bolt on the recoil starter cup, held it in place here with the tire iron in the slots here so we could loosen it. And then we'll go ahead and remove it. Slide the cup out. It's just on splines, it just slides right off. Okay, then you have 8mm bolts all the way around the cover. So you can see we've also loosened up the stator wiring harness so it's easy to remove. And then you can tap on it with a rubber mallet or just kind of rock it back and forth. And then you can slide the cover out. There's our old stator in the cover. So we'll put this on the bench and get the stator swapped over. And behind it you can see the flywheel. Nothing to worry about here. We don't need to remove it or change anything, so this whole side's going to stay the same. And make sure while you have this off that your gasket surface is clean. This gasket came off just fine, so we don't have much to clean up, but make sure it's all clean and spotless. And we're going to put the cover on the bench and get the stator swapped over. We have the stator side cover on the bench, and we're going to swap in the new stator. So this older model uses Phillips head bolts for everything. I've already loosened all of them. And if you're installing this on a newer model Warrior, later than mid-90s, I believe, I don't know the exact cutoff, your stator might look a little different. It might not have the dual pickup coils here, so it might be slightly different procedure, but basically removing it's the same on pretty much any permanent magnet setup like this. So I've got all these guys loosened. I'm going to go ahead and remove these, pull the pickup coils out, remove the stator bolts and the wire bracket. So once that's all done, I can just lift out the new stator, or old stator, sorry. Get that out of the way. So here we have the new stator. And I'm just going to lay it in place. I'll adjust the grommet and the mounting later. I'm just going to show you how it fits in. Lay the pickup coil wires down. Now make sure on these models that had dual pickup coils, make sure you install your new one with the pickup coil facing down, like that. Okay, and then your wire clamp's going to go back in the same location. Make sure you clamp the wires completely underneath it. And then when you reinstall all of your hardware, make sure to use red Loctite on it so none of them bolts back out. And then tighten it all up. while you have it out, make sure you clean up your gasket surface, which I've already done here. And then when you install your new gasket, use some of the black RTV silicone sealant. A thin layer on both sides of the gasket should make sure there's no leaks. So I'm going to get all that done, and then we'll get the stator and the side cover back on the bike. Now we're going to reinstall the side cover and the stator back on the motor. So we have some gasket sealer behind this. We have the gasket in place. We have both barrel pins in place to locate it. So I'm going to lift up the side cover and line it up. And the flywheel will kind of pull it in place, and you'll feel the pins line up. So until that's pretty much seated. So once you have it installed like that, you want to grab all of your bolts and get them threaded back into place. So we're going to go ahead and do that, get them all in place and tightened up, and then we'll put the recoil cup back in place, which I'll show you how to do now before tightening it. So once you have all your bolts installed and tightened, grab the cup, just kind of rotate it till it lines up on the splines inside, slide it in, and then take your bolt, tighten that back up, and then you'll want to hold it in place again with your tire iron or whatever you're using to lock this up, and tighten it up to the torque specs in the service manual. And then once that's tight, you can reinstall the recoil starter on top, put the bolts back in, and your stator replacement is done. Okay, so we're going to start installing and plugging in the components at the very back of the bike. So back here we have our tail light, CDI box, and voltage regulator. So first I'm going to plug in the tail light. That is these two male-female bullet connectors together. Go ahead and plug them in. And then I'm just going to move it up here out of the way. Alright, then I'm going to install our voltage regulator. And the plugs are right here. You have a 3-pin plug here. I'll plug that in, and you have a 2-pin plug with your red and black wires for the battery side. Plug that in. That gets mounted to the original regulator location, and I'm just going to kind of hang it in place here on one bolt. I think all the Warriors have 2 bolts here to install it with, so you just tighten them up and it mounts to the original bracket. And then we're going to mount our CDI box. Well, not mount on this older Warrior, but plug it in. 2 plugs, they're keyed, they're different sizes, so you can't get it wrong. So I got that plugged in. Now on newer Warriors, there is a CDI mount. Here there's a bracket, so it'll mount right here like this. On the older Warriors, there is no bracket back here. So I'm going to leave it hanging loose for now, and it's going to get tied up once we install the rear plastics. So now that we got that done, we'll move on to the next components. So now we're working on the back left side of the frame. Back here we have the starter solenoid, and we have our neutral relay and fuse connection, and then our harness positive and negative connections. So kind of looks like a lot, but it's there's really not too much here, and they're all keyed, so you can only plug them in one way. So you need to swap out your starter solenoid with our new one. You just reuse your old wires. They use a 10mm nut, so we've got those guys connected to our new solenoid. Here is the plug from the harness, 2-pin plug here with red and blue wires. Go ahead and plug that in. Okay, and then I have the neutral relay mounted, reusing the old rubber mount, and I'm going to plug that in. It's a 4-pin connector here. Okay. Then I have the fuse here, the master fuse for the harness. We're going to reuse that from the bike. I'm going to take the red wire from our harness and plug it into one side of the fuse, like that. The other side of the fuse will plug into the red wire coming off of your red battery wire. So plug that in. So then all we have left is the black wire for the harness. This is the ground for our new harness. Now if you have a newer model Warrior, the ground wire that attaches to the battery will have a mating female bullet connector coming off of it, and you'll just plug this right in. We're working on an 87 here that does not, so you need our grounding adapter harness, which is a ring terminal on one side that will go to the battery negative terminal, and it has a bullet connector here to plug in to our black wire. So I'm going to plug that in, and then I'm going to leave this hanging here. This will get grounded to our battery negative terminal later. So that's it for the side of the bike here. Okay, so we're going to do all the connections in the middle of the bike now, just above the back of the motor. So first will be the stator connections. We have 2 plugs for the stator. The round one is your charging, battery charging side. Your white connector is the ignition side. So I'm going to go ahead and plug those in. And they're keyed and locking connectors, so you can't really get them wrong. So I got that plugged in, and I'm just going to push it out of the way here. Okay, so next is our neutral switch, which comes up from the side to the bottom of the motor here, and that gets plugged into this connector here on our harness that has a green and a blue wire coming together into a junction in a bullet connector. So I'm going to go ahead and plug that in. Okay, and push that out of the way. Okay, then this is something you want to pay attention to, is the reverse switch. So if you have, first things first, if you have a newer model, on your reverse handle up here on the right side of the bike, there will be a wire coming off of it. That wire is not used in any case, so you're going to leave that unplugged and just hanging loose. It's not going to hurt anything. On older models, there is no wire coming off of the reverse lever, reverse handle over here. The reverse wire on our bike, this is to control the reverse light, is this guy, which is a green wire with a female bullet connector. So if you have a newer model, will have a male bullet connector coming out of the reverse switch down here. In that case, you just plug our bullet connector right onto it, sticks out of the side of the motor here, and that's it. If you have an older model, the reverse switch has a basically a screw that screws into the switch, so you'll need our adapter that has a small ring terminal on it and comes out to a male bullet connector. So this is an older model, so I'm using our adapter harness. I already have it attached to the reverse switch, so I'm going to go ahead and plug it in to the single green wire on our harness. Okay, so that's done. Now keep in mind, if you have an older model and you are having to use our adapter harness here to plug into the reverse switch with the ring terminal, you're going to have to use our reverse light relay harness, which will be installed up on the front of the bike. This is to make the switch logic work correctly and make the reverse light work on older models. So keep in mind, if you do use this harness, you do need our relay harness up front. If you have a newer model that this plugs directly into the reverse switch, then there's no need for the relay harness. I'll explain more up front when we're installing the relay harness. So that's it for the connections here above the motor, and we'll go ahead and move up to the front of the bike. Okay, so we're going to do all our connections at the front now. To start, I'm showing you where the key switch is going to be installed. I'm just holding the front panel here. Different years have different front panels, but they all have a mount here for the key switch. So the nut on the front comes off and it just goes through that. You put the nut back on, nothing special. So I'm going to get this out of the way. I'm just showing you how it mounts. Okay, so I'm going to show you all the connections up here. There's a lot of stuff, but it's all keyed and it's pretty simple and color coded, so don't worry about it too much. So first I'll plug in our key switch. It has this 2-pin plug on it. That is on this guy. You'll see the mating plug right here. So I'm going to go ahead and plug that in and let it sit out of the way. Okay, then I'm going to plug in our handlebar switch. Now you also need to mount your handlebar switch, which I'm not showing in the video. It replaces the original. It's 2 Phillips head screws, mounts on the left handlebar. So I already have our new handlebar switch installed and routed down here. I'm going to go ahead and plug that in. The main connector is this white 4-pin plug. So I've got that done. Now there's a brown wire with a bullet connector coming out of it. That is the tail light power. That plugs into this blue wire with a mating bullet connector from our harness. I'll plug that in, so that powers the tail light. Okay, so I got all that. This is our headlight plug. We're going to deal with that in just a minute, so don't worry about that yet. I need to explain some adapter harnesses for different years of the headlights. Next, you're going to want to have installed your ignition coil. It mounts to the frame up here, two 10mm bolts, so I've already got this one installed. The ignition coil connection is, the ground side is a black wire with a ring terminal. It goes through one of the mounting bolts. I've already got that done. And the orange wire is a bullet, not bullet, a spade connector, female, plugs in. The coils with our kit generally have a terminal sticking out of it, just plugs right in. This one has a wire, same thing. So that's connected. Then I'm going to install our clutch switch. Clutch switch are these two bullet connectors here, a black and a black with a yellow stripe. Our harness has a mating yellow and black wire, and they're obviously male and female, so they only go one way. So I've got those installed. Okay, so we got all that stuff. And that's all our main connections up front. Next, I'm going to do a separate step and show you connecting our reverse and neutral lights and explain the relay harness if it's needed. And then we'll also talk about the headlight adapters for different years. So those are your main connections up front. Go ahead and make those, and then we'll talk about the next step up here. Okay, so here we're going to talk about the headlight adapters and our neutral and reverse lights. So different years of Warrior have a different headlight plug. There's about 4 different plugs that are used. So we have an adapter harness we include to mate to all the different stock Warrior headlights. This is the adapter for the older, this is an 87 Warrior, and I think this is the oldest plug style used. So here's the 2 plugs from the headlights that are run up through the plastics here. So I'm going to go ahead and plug our adapter harness in just like this. And all of our adapter harnesses, once they are plugged into the mating headlight connectors, will have this guy, this 3-pin plug. It's got a green, a black, and a yellow wire on it. Those are all the same, and they will plug into, coming off our handlebar switch, we'll have a mating 3-pin plug. So it doesn't matter which adapter you need to fit your headlights, they all will plug into our handlebar switch just like that. Okay, so that's done. Now we have headlight power. So the last thing to talk about here is connecting our neutral and our reverse lights. So let me grab the light housing, which just snaps onto the handlebars in the center. I've taken it off. So the, let me make sure I get this straight. The neutral lights are the light green wire. Each one has a brown, that's the hot side, and the light green wire is going to go to our white wire, just plugs in. And then you can use either of our black with a red stripe wires. They go to the browns, doesn't matter which is which. So I'm going to go ahead and connect that. So like I mentioned earlier when I was talking about the reverse switch, if you have a newer model that the reverse switch wire had a bullet connector, a bullet terminal on the switch, and it just plugged right in, then you do not need our reverse light relay adapter, and you can just go ahead and plug this in. Green goes to green, plug it in like that, and the brown will go to our other black with a red wire. So that handles reverse on any newer model that had a bullet terminal on the reverse switch. Now if you have an older model that used a screw and needed a ring terminal, so you had to use our adapter for the reverse switch, you're going to need our reverse light relay adapter. So the reason for this is the reverse switches are different on different years, basically going to ground when it's in reverse, or the switch goes open when it's in reverse. The older model is basically the switch logic is backwards and it won't trigger the light correctly. So we have to use a relay to reverse that to make your reverse light work correctly. So on this older model, we need that, and I'm going to show you how to install it. I'm going to go ahead and unplug our reverse light. So you'll have a harness that looks like this. This is the reverse harness. It's included with the kit. You use it if you need it. If not, you just set it aside. The production models will have color matched wiring, so it'll be a lot simpler to connect. This is kind of a prototype part, so it's not, the wiring color is not exact. And there'll also be a separate instruction sheet showing you exactly how to hook it up, so don't get too worried if this is kind of confusing. One of the wires will have a ring terminal on it. That needs to be grounded. It's meant to just go to one of the ignition coil wires, or not wires, mounting bolts. So I'm not going to install it, but assume I ground that to one of the mounting bolts. And then you have your bullet connectors here. So basically follow the written instructions that'll show you the exact color to color hookup. But basically you've got 2 males and 2 females. 2 of them are going to go to the light itself, like that, and 2 of them are going to go to the wires coming out of our harness, the green and the black red. So that basically will reverse the switch logic and make the reverse switch light up correctly. So I'm not going to show plugging this in since the wire colors don't match. It's kind of confusing. Refer to our printed instructions. It'll show you how to hook that up, and that'll make sure your reverse light works on these older models. Okay, so now that we got all that done, all our connections at the front are made, you want to go ahead and tie everything up, make sure it's bundled up nicely and tied up together in front of the steering here so it doesn't rub on anything. And then once that's done, you install your key switch and put your front panel back on. And once you got all that done, then you can go ahead and move on to the next step. Okay, so we've got the plastics back on the bike, all the wiring's tied up, so we're just about done here. Just wanted to show you real quick where the CDI is mounted on the older models. There's some good holes in the back of the battery box in the plastics here. So I've got it mounted up there and then to the crossbar on the back of the frame here. And we just zip tied it in place, and it's a good firm mount. It's not going anywhere. You can see the regulator mounted and everything's tied up at the back here. So that's about it. Again, you only need to do this on the older models that don't have a CDI mounting bracket back here. The newer models do, and you can just reuse that. It's the same size as the original CDI box. So that's all wrapped up. We're going to show you now just how to test everything and see that all your lights and everything's working correctly. And that's about it for our Warrior kit. Okay, so we've got our new Warrior kit installed, and we're just going to run through and show you how the handlebar switch works and how to check the charging system and all the lights and make sure everything's working perfectly. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the key on, which is over on the side here. So in this is your kill switch, your off run switch right here. In the off position, you've got nothing going on, no lights, starter doesn't work. So I'm going to go ahead and flip that over to the run position. So now in the run position, this thing will start. It's in neutral, so the clutch switch is not required. If it's in gear, the clutch switch is required, so you have to have your clutch in. You see the neutral light's on. Okay, so headlight settings. I've got, right now I'm in off, so I don't have headlight or tail light on. Flip it up to low beam. So you can see I've got my low beams on the headlights, and my tail light is on, which you can see back here. Tail light stays on in the high or low beam setting, which I'm flipping between right now. And your headlight control, obviously high-low beam right here. Okay, so we're all good there. And then your neutral light, or sorry, your reverse light obviously only comes on when you're in reverse. We'll start it up and I'll put it in reverse so you can see that. We're also going to show you how to check the charging system real quick. Since you have a new stator and regulator, you should have a real healthy charging system. So I have a voltmeter here hooked up to the battery, showing the battery voltage. So you want to basically set it to DC volts to the 20 volt setting if you have one. And you want to see, you know, it kind of depends on the condition of the battery. We've been starting and stopping this a lot, so we're not going to get maximum voltage out of it. If you have a fully charged battery, you should be seeing upwards of 14.6 volts max. I think we're going to hit low 14s here because we have a fairly discharged battery. So I'm going to go ahead and fire it up and we'll see what's going on. So is our idle voltage getting close to 13 is fine. Oops. So that's fine, we're hitting about 14 volts for about a half charged battery. So charging system's working good on this. It's strong. Go ahead and set this out of the way. And I'll show you the reverse light, and that's about it. Everything works pretty much the way your old Warrior systems used to. I'm gonna go ahead and put it in reverse here. So you can see with that engaged, I'm in reverse lights on. Since reverse on this model, turn this guy off. Since reverse on these things is independent of the transmission, your neutral light can obviously stay on, or you can be in gear, but your neutral gear is totally separate from the transmission, so this guy can be on or off depending on if you're actually in neutral or not. So that's about it. That's how to test everything and make sure all the functions work with the new kit. We hope this helps bring your old Warrior back to life and let you get a lot more hours and use out of it. Make sure you check out rmstator.com for all of our other products for the Warrior 350, and have fun riding.